I read last night that the little recycle symbol that you saw was created in 1970. It was created by an artist, and it took about 30 years for it to really gain traction and be universally accepted. We don't have 30 or 40 years at this point. So what we need to do is really work together. And so my challenge is for us to go forth together and make that D icon and the donate movement really the universal symbol of donation.
Thinking differently allows us to bring in new partners, to put an environmentally conscious care tag in Levi's that says now, wash every 2 weeks, clothesline dry, and when done, donate to Goodwill. Thinking differently has us growing at 12% a year. No other retailers are growing like that right now. And thinking differently allows us to divert 2 billion pounds from landfills every year. So thinking differently is really critical if we're to address the needs of our communities in a way that allows us to meet the needs of the employers and of our economy to remain leaders in this world economy. In 1973, 23% of jobs required a post-secondary credential. That's doubled early in this century. It'll be 2/3 of all jobs will need a post-secondary credential in 2018. That's all opportunity if we choose to think differently on how we solve our community problems. And it's about tools and supports. And so why am I at Goodwill? I joined Goodwill 3 years ago, but I grew up in a family that in my own way demonstrated the same values that Goodwill demonstrates to the 2.4 million people that we serve. My parents surrounded me with the tools, the support, and the love, those wraparound services that I needed to be a young blind kid, to make it through high school, to get an engineering degree from Purdue, and to start off my life in a way that allowed me to get the types of experiences that I needed to go to Harvard Business School. You know, it's kind of like developing film is developing kids, right? You know, the more exposure, the more they develop. My parents did that for me. My parents did that, but they did other things. They advocated and they advised. When I graduated from Purdue, I interviewed with 50 companies, and I got 50 rejection letters. After my freshman year at Purdue, I couldn't find a job, and that was okay. I was 19, I partied the whole summer. It was a great summer. After my sophomore year, I knew I needed a job. My dad's company had a program where they gave an employee's kid in college at least one summer opportunity, but not the young blind engineer at Purdue. They didn't know what to do with me until my dad went in there and pounded on the HR leader's table, and they gave me a job. I was a janitor in an equipment development shop, and I learned that every job matters. I also got to go run some of the machines with some of the guys until the big boss found out the blind guy was running the machines, and he put an end to all of that. After my junior year, I knew I needed some professional experience. I couldn't make it happen. So I got creative. I worked for free. So I got a job where I did an internship. I worked for free. I got some professional experience. And fortunately, I was lucky enough to turn that into some general engineering credits. So I got a little bit something out of it in addition to the experience. And then 50 interviews, 50 ding letters. The good news is, up in West Lafayette, 10 ding letters got you a free beer at Harry's chocolate shop. So there was some value in all of that rejection. But I ended up getting offers from AT&T and IBM, and it took the big companies to take the shot on the blind kid out of Purdue. But all of that took a lot of supports, a lot of advocacy, a lot of advice, a lot of frustrating moments, a lot of wraparound services for me to overcome the barriers that I had. And those were provided by my mom and dad. But not everybody has that. So about 2 years ago, we had what we called a Thinking to Action workshop, and that's where what we call our C4 initiative, Community College Career Collaboration Initiative, started. It started with 3 community colleges: Northern Virginia Community College, Alamode College, and Forsyth Technical Community College, and I think Gary Green might be here today. And it started with 3 models. We reference the models as 2 revenue-sharing models, one where the dollars start with Goodwill and then work their way through various avenues, one an asset-sharing model, and the other revenue-sharing model is where the dollars start with the community college and then Goodwill provides services within the context of that revenue stream. There will probably be 100 hybrids of those 3 models as we take off. But what we've learned when we pinged our membership, Goodwills around the country, we learned that the majority of them have relationships with you. We knew it, but we didn't have any numbers, but now we know that most Goodwills have relationships with community colleges. They're not all starting at the president or the chancellor level, but it's not that our work out of that workshop was so brilliant, it's that the work out of that workshop was already happening, and now how do we catalyze it to turn that into a movement? So we have this taking place. We've got another 30 Goodwills and Goodwill community colleges who are being more intentional. We've got those 80 some odd that we know about that have relationships that are ready to be taken to the next level. But more importantly, Goodwill has to think differently. We have to change our mindset from a job to a career. We have to recognize the importance of stackable credentials, and that a Goodwill certificate doesn't take that program participant or even our own employees to the next level, but a stackable credential does. Community colleges have to think differently. You guys are great as a workforce development group, and you have great relationships with employees. But can you take it to the next level with employers? But can you take it to the next level? And can you think differently about what student success is? And if you think differently about that, what happens to completion rates? And should we think differently about completion rates? So that's our challenge as we navigate these white waters of change that every one of us face every day. So I'm going to close with just a quick story about thinking differently. It's about my son Thomas, who you heard lots about. He's been pretty influential in my life. But when he was young, 8 years old, starting Little League, he loved baseball. He ate, drank, and slept baseball. He always had a mitt, a ball, or a bat in his hand. And we were in the backyard barbecuing, and he said, Dad, I am the world's greatest hitter. And I said, yeah, Thomas? He said, watch this. And he picks up the ball, and he has his bat in his hand, and he throws the ball up, and he swings, and he grunts, and he says, strike one, Daddy. But he picks up the ball again, and with total determination, total focus, he throws the ball in the air, and I'm waiting for a window to break. And he swings with all of his might, and he says, strike two, Daddy. And he picks up the ball the third time. changing his stance, getting comfortable. He throws the ball up, he swings again, and he missed. He said, "Strike three, Daddy. I'm the world's greatest pitcher, too." I think he taught me about thinking differently. So if we can think a little differently, if we can have a little stick-to-itiveness, and if you can add those to the leadership that you already offer to your schools, and more importantly, to your community, then I think we'll close the gap that we're all committed to closing. So thank you very much. Thank you for being at this conference, and enjoy the rest of the event. Thanks. Peter?
That was wonderful, outstanding.
Thanks, Peter.
Let me,
All right.
you want me to go down with you?
No, I'll just wait here. You're quick, right?
Thank you. Well, absolutely. Thank you very much, Jim, for joining us today. You've given us a lot to think about, and we really appreciate all your strong support to the community collaborations and community colleges. Thank you again. What an outstanding presentation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.